Isabel is a
Oh,
disgrazia.
wow. It is absolute disgrazia. If you're an American, you should feel shame.
Today, folks, to the 7.1 Americans that watch this channel, firstly, thank you. But I gotta ask, are you okay? I mean, the state of American politics right now is absolutely mind-busting, blistering insanity. And we gotta talk about this big, beautiful bill because it does have major implications on Canada if it does get passed. But we're gonna talk about the destruction, the backlash that is causing. We gotta talk about crypto, the state of the markets, the global markets, the US dollar, what all of this means for your investing journey. So if you're on a path to financial independence, you damn well one day want to retire early, join me on that journey by hitting that subscribe button, folks, because a lot of this just really starts with the end of the honeymoon phase. We knew this was coming because all of you that rallied behind politicians made it your entire personality, and like just how you function as a human being is insane because politicians lie. You shouldn't focus on your career, your financial future, your family's well-being purely based off a vote on a piece of paper, because it is absolutely moronic, as many people are waking up to that reality today. But I mean, take a listen to the insanity of what Elon is going through.
So, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
So imagine you're Elon Musk and you put all this effort into trying to save and bring down the budget deficit and all this crap, and Trump just turns around and just wants to print ungodly amounts of money. I mean, who would have guessed? A politician that lies.
Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one big, beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the Doge efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes.
So wait. If this bill doesn't get passed, taxes are going to go up 65% in the United States. I thought things were coming down in price. I thought we were getting tax breaks, but now you're going to print ungodly amounts of money, raising inflation on the middle and lower class. And the only thing you can really offer in return is cutting tips for people that are like waitressing, even though that opens up a whole slew of possible corruption and people taking advantage of the system in other ways. But what is he talking about?
And lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that.
Like what?
But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country.
Again, he just rambles and makes absolutely no obliterate sense. So basically, if this bill doesn't get passed, guys, get ready to see the biggest tax increase you've ever experienced in your life in the United States, because that makes any sense. But on top of that, you also have, the courts basically blocking Trump's tariff war here, which is finally coming to an obliterate end. Is basically the U.S. court ruled that Trump administration lacked the authority to impose sweeping global tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Power Act. As we all know, Trump could only raise tariffs on the fact that he was rallying against the idea that fentanyl was the big driving factor. I mean, that is the only legal way he was allowed to do it, saying that fentanyl is a major problem, it's a war on drugs, we can do this act. But meanwhile, Canada has like the lowest problems with over-the-border drug imports to the United States, where it's the other way around. Like, most drugs come up from Mexico to the States and then came to Canada. In fact, Canada was responsible for stopping like hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of drug flow into our country coming up the United States border, which is, again, insanity. But it's requiring the White House to begin unwinding certain tariffs within 10 days, basically through an appeal that is underway. While this decision poses a major challenge to Trump's trade strategy, experts expect the administration to pursue alternative legal avenues to maintain or reintroduce tariffs, potentially shifting focus to sectoral measure or other provisions under the Trade Act. So what does this mean for the market? Because this is what tanked the S&P 500 initially, was this global trade war that began. And slowly over time, people started waking up to the reality after the massive collapse that this isn't working out. Like, it's probably just for negotiation tactics. And that's what Trump's kind of leaning into now, is like all of this unwinds, but the market doesn't even care. The market is so past this because earnings were fairly reasonable in Q1. Yeah, there are some effects and some impacts. We're seeing GDP in the United States slow down. They might actually even be in a technical recession, which will be the first time in a long time a president has actually caused a recession in the United States. But nonetheless, and I told you guys this time and time again, like when these moments happen, you just buy aggressively. I don't believe companies. I don't look at the States and be like, oh, I hate the politics there, so I hate all of the U.S. No, the U.S. has spawned like some of the greatest companies ever, and those companies are globalized. They sell products everywhere, and they are also fighting that administration. They're not like, it's a complicated thing that you have to look at, and you can't let politics interfere with your investing strategies. So if you bought the dip here, you've been doing very well. But if you live in the US, and I've stated this in many of my live streams, like literally months ago, that this would be the time to start globalizing your investment portfolio, because if you had, not only have you seen the S&P TSX way outperform the S&P this year, with including the dividends. I mean, it's up 5% just in equity. You look at Europe is up 7%. You look at the Shanghai index, it's up 3%. And not only that, if you were globally diversifying, you've seen a better return just on the exchange rate, because I mean, look at the year-to-date US dollar, as a lot of countries start flooding their money back out of USD into their native currencies, again, rallying a lot of these global markets. So I mean, you've seen the dollar go from 108 to 99. You would have seen like a double-edged return, and probably if you were investing, let's just say as an example, maybe in the Canadians or the European markets, I mean, you could have seen a 10 to 15% return between the dollar conversion and just our stocks rallying, right? So it's good to get an understanding of how global markets operate in this sense, because a lot of people are realizing buying global market ETFs might be the more appropriate way to invest under these conditions, because again, they have led to better returns, at least this year for the most part. And it's why it's becoming a piece of my portfolio as I begin to age and look for wealth preservation. But continuing with the bill itself and watching the American backlash, I do love the All In podcast because they're very critical. And this was a really good moment in this episode.
$5 trillion a year, adding to our debt load. We are in a fiscal crisis, and we're not willing to admit it. And I've said this from day one, that Doge can only do so much. And clearly that's the case, where they're now talking about sub $300 billion a year in potential annual savings from Doge action. At the end of the day, Congress needs to take action. And this bill from Congress doesn't take much action. I will tell you that if you look across the board, all of these programs are still being proposed to be run at a cost that is well in excess of their pre-COVID levels. And so I would set two guiding principles. If I was to be the benevolent dictator of the United States of America, my guiding principle number one would be that any program that we intend to continue to persist have its budget level cut to pre-COVID, to 2019 levels. Second would be, and if we did that, by the way, we would be in a much better fiscal situation. The second would be that we add no new programs in the moment. There's a whole bunch of new shit thrown into this bill, as well as increasing the cost and a few cuts here and there. I'll just highlight a couple that I think are worth noting.
There's a lot going on here, and I think honestly, you kind of got to look at this from two perspectives as an investor. If this bill does get passed, say hell yeah to the market, because again, anytime they print more money and inflationary pressures hit, the market absolutely rockets. If this bill doesn't get passed and they actually start looking to constrain spending, you should probably see a stalling out overall in the broader US equity markets. But again, earnings still remain quite strong, so I'm not like fearful of the market collapsing to any major extent. But I mean, again, this is one of the most controversial, moments I think in my entire lifetime, throughout the U.S. administrations that have kind of shifted through. I mean, I've never seen anything quite like this. Now, switching to the Canadian side of the border, I mean, Trump's Golden Dome offer basically to Canada is that they either have to become the 51st state or pay $61 billion in a price tag. And this is also becoming kind of a joke and a controversial deal, because this Golden Dome doesn't even protect the entirety of the United States. So I don't know why Canada would even bother paying if it doesn't protect the entirety of Canada. But this comes on the back of the recent elected Prime Minister, Mark Carney, who basically said for every dollar spent on like army and security and whatever, 75 cents of it or something is going to the United States. And that they're looking to divest that into other countries. Right when he was in Europe here, getting this quote from the King.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity, an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War.
The ramifications of what he's saying is not wrong. Like, we are going through a massive policy shift, a massive diversification of investments, managing of commodities and all this stuff that our country has. And it's quite remarkable because, again, if Trump doesn't care about Canada, why does he want it so bad? Well, we are like the top 3 most commodity rich countries on the planet. And that is a natural security risk for the United States as it is. But still, this is just interesting.
A confident Canada which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away.
Either way, super, super interesting stuff going on. And finally, I just want to talk about the crypto side of this, because a lot of you have been asking me why I don't. And again, I do have some investments in Bitcoin and Ethereum, very minor, and I'm just not a fan of the crypto space. And CoffeeZilla really kind of highlights some of these points, especially with the administration getting involved in the fact that Bitcoin was supposed to be a decentralized way of removing yourself from government control over currency and stuff. And yet now we're moving in the exact opposite direction. But this really stuck out to me in one of his recent videos.
Where do you see Bitcoin in 2 years and in 5 years?
I think I sort of alluded to it earlier, but I think we're going to the moon, guys. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Just stay in, stay strong. We're like I said, you know, we're in it from all these different ways, whether it's Truth Social, whether it's what we're doing with American Bitcoin on the mining side, World Liberty Financial, you know, on the DeFi.
Imagine like a politician that basically has a direct arm like in a crypto project like the Donald Trump crypto coin and all this crap, and they're just saying we're going to the moon, guys. Like in CoffeeZilla made a good point, like in what industry, like for chips, do you ever hear Nvidia CEO saying we're going to the moon, guy? Like who pumps shit like this? And the reason that I don't own a lot of Bitcoin is because I don't consider it a long-term buy and hold asset like many of the pumpers do, more or less because you can't really dissociate it from an actual utility or basically just a Ponzi scheme. I do believe it has some derived value in global currency exchange if you wanted to move money across the country, but that's not why people are utilizing it. And we actually haven't been in a super bad bear market to see all this leverage unwind. I mean, when we saw the crash of 2022, that even wasn't really a crash, but we did see what it was like to see all the leverage start getting pulled out of the crypto market, and it tanked miserably, right? And now we're sitting at like record high leverage, and you see it because of you know, I mean, you go out there and you look at things like MicroStrategies, like these guys like these are whales. There are only a handful of people that really have full control over the Bitcoin price, and a lot of it is just levered to the nines. And if any of this ever unwinds when we go into a real market crisis where people need liquidity, the first thing they're going to do is look at their fixed assets, guys, and that's going to be crypto, that's going to be gold, that's going to be any of these assets they can get liquidity out of. And if that leverage, you know, fully unwinds in any material way, like MicroStrategies will instantly be bankrupt. And I mean, that could happen at any time. I mean, there's nothing saying it can't happen, and I don't like the risk that comes with that when I see so much utility in other cryptos out there. Like, you have to recognize that Bitcoin is not efficient, it's not a currency, it's nothing like it was intended to be, yet it's kind of got this massive runway of just keep buying it, just keep buying it. Okay, well, how do I actualize value out of it? Oh, I gotta sell it. That's right. Like that's the only way. It doesn't produce anything. It's not a producing asset. And I look at gold the same way. Like I don't really want to own gold either. It doesn't really produce anything, does it, guys? So I mean, yeah, this is the reality that we're kind of sitting at, and I think the honeymoon phase has finally come to an end. I think people are waking up to the reality that a politician is a politician, regardless about how you feel, you know, about Donald Trump or the current administration, that, you know, politics are politics. You vote based off your best ability, and then you put it aside and go back to your job. Trump, Carney, all these, you know, kings and you know, presidents around the world, they're not putting food on your table. They're not ones showing up to your job. I mean, policy sucks, but I don't rely on government to get rich. And if you do, you're a fool. You're a clown, you're a sheep. I'm sorry. It's just, you can't rely on these guys for anything. They just lie relentlessly, and you just sit there and get spoon-fed it and thinking your life is getting better when you should be responsible for making your life better. That's all I have to say. I just thought this was a crazy moment. The videos I'm watching that I'm sharing with you just continue to blow my mind, but I'd love to know what you think about all of it in that comment section below.